Shocking! Why free shipping is a $14 trillion lie. Did you know every time you click free shipping, you're tipping a billionaire? I mean, seriously, that tiny badge on your cart feels like a win, right? But there's a $14 trillion bill hiding behind it, baked into prices, fees, and a maze of ocean alliances most people never see. Your porch is the finish line of a global game where a few players set the rules and you pay without noticing. So here's the question we're going to answer. Who actually profits when shipping looks free? And how did that lie become normal? The free shipping trap. Picture this, you've got two tabs open, same hoodie, same color. One is $19.99 plus $6.99 shipping. The other is $27.99 with free shipping in bright green. You already know which one you'll pick, because apparently zero flips a switch in your brain. It doesn't just look cheaper, it feels like a reward. That's the trap. Let's be honest, most of us aren't running spreadsheets at checkout. We chase the dopamine hit that says, nice, you beat the system, but you didn't. Free is a frame. It turns a cost into a prize and slides past your guard. Retailers know this cold. They A/B test that button until it prints conversions. Add a countdown timer, a little only $4.12 until free shipping, and watch average order value jump. Loss aversion kicks in. You'd rather toss in a random add-on than lose free shipping. That wasn't your idea, it was theirs. Here's the retail math they don't put on the product page. Shipping isn't a single line, it's a stack. There's line haul from factory to port, ocean or air, drayage to warehouse, pick and pack, packaging, fuel surcharges, duties, compliance, fraud risk, returns, and customer support when your parcel goes on a field trip. Then there's reverse logistics for the size you send back, which is a whole second journey nobody sees. All of that lives inside a number called landed cost. Then they add margin. Then they add the free sticker. So when a brand says, we eat the shipping, no, they don't. They priced it in. A $19 widget becomes $27, not because the widget got better, but because the box, the truck, the warehouse, and the insurance all need to get paid. And they will by you whether it shows up as a separate charge or not. Why would stores push this so hard? Because the metrics light up. Free shipping boosts conversion. It builds bigger baskets. It turns one-time buyers into repeat buyers because the perk feels like status, even if everyone gets it. It lowers cart abandonment. It smooths price comparison because now you're sorting by the one filter that flattens truth into a badge, free. And that badge travels. Marketplaces sort by free. Influencers promote it, and your email promo says today only, even when it's tomorrow too. The whole thing becomes normal. You don't ask what changed inside the price. You just chase the threshold like a game level. Here's the kicker. The system is designed so you'll never see the real receipt. Global logistics costs topped into the double-digit trillions and are projected to push toward $14 trillion within a few years, according to industry trackers. That's not a small slice of life. That's a quiet tax on everything that shows up at your door or sits on a shelf. And because it's embedded, you can't dodge it with a coupon code. It follows you into groceries, gadgets, and the toilet paper you panic bought in 202. Now you might be thinking, okay, but if everyone's paying it, then what? That's the point. Free shipping hides the true cost of moving stuff so retailers can nudge behavior without friction. It keeps you from pushing back on line items because there aren't any. It turns a massive, volatile global cost structure into a feel-good moment at checkout. And it works even when rates spike, because the price just drifts up while the badge stays on. There's another layer, returns. Free shipping almost always means free returns too, at least in your head. Even when it doesn't, you believe it should. So you buy 2 sizes, maybe 3, then send half back. Retailers know this and bake in a boomerang fee across the whole catalog. The few who return a lot don't pay more. Everyone else subsidizes them. That's how free becomes a habit, and a habit becomes a cost center you don't see. So here's where we're going next. If you're not paying at checkout, where's the bill? Who sets the ocean rates that ripple into your hoodie and your cereal and your couch? Why did prices warp so fast during the pandemic, and why didn't they snap back just as fast? Follow the money, and you'll find a handful of alliances steering a huge share of the world's container capacity. They don't need your permission. They just need you to keep loving that little green badge. The receipt you never see. The logistics tax. So let's open the receipt nobody shows you. Not the one in your inbox. The one that starts at a factory gate and ends on your porch. Logistics is the whole trip. Moving stuff, storing it, touching it, checking it, and moving it again. End to end. The The price you click isn't just the hoodie, it's also the ocean slot, the truck lane, the warehouse bay, the tape gun, the return label, and the fuel and everything. When people say logistics is huge, they're not guessing. Industry trackers peg global logistics costs in the double-digit trillions in recent years, with forecasts pushing toward roughly $14 trillion by the late 200s. That's not an add-on, that's the water we all swim in. Here's the stack in plain English. First leg, factory to port. That's drayage, customs paperwork, export fees. Then the big hop, ocean container or air freight. Ocean is cheap per unit when things are stable until they're not. Air is a panic button, fast, brutal on cost. Land on the other side and you hit terminals, handling fees, and last-mile carriers. Somewhere in there, a warehouse is counting, picking, packing, and eating rent, labor, and energy. Add insurance, duties, compliance, and the charge nobody can name until the invoice hits, accessorials, fuel surcharges, congestion fees, peak season fees, general rate increases. If it rains sideways in a port you can't find on a map, there's a fee. Now watch how that turns into the number you see. Importers roll all of this into landed cost. That's the full burden to get 1 unit sale ready in a local warehouse. Then they mark it up. Some use a simple keystone rule, double the cost. Big players run dynamic models. They watch fees, diesel prices, parcel zones, even your zip code, and they nudge price in quiet steps you won't notice. When you see free shipping, what you're really seeing is we already charged you. Let's make it concrete. Say a brand sources a $9 unit. Ocean and inland to their DC add $2.10 on average. Duties and compliance tack on 60 cents. Warehousing, handling, and packaging add $1.50. Now landed is $13.20. If they sell it $19 plus $6.99 ship, your brain balks. If they list it at $26.99 with free, you smile. Same math, it gets spicier with returns. If 20% come back, reverse logistics adds, say, $1 per outbound unit on average. Now it's $27.99 free, with your future indecision priced in. You might ask, do shipping costs really move retail prices that much? When ocean rates exploded during the pandemic, economists at the Boston Fed looked at detailed route and product data and found something simple. When shipping costs spike hard, import prices follow meaningfully. That ripple lands in stores. It doesn't show up as a shipping line, it shows up as that thing costs more now. And here's the kicker, even when spot rates cool, a chunk of those add-ons stick. Contracts lag. Surcharges linger. Retailers learn that a higher price clears. The badge stays free. But who gets paid along the way? Everyone who controls a choke point. Carriers set base rates, then layer fees to cover fuel, congestion, equipment imbalances, and peak. Truckers and parcel carriers price by zones, weight, and density, and they charge more for remote delivery. Warehouses raise rates when labor is tight and demand spikes. Terminals lift tariffs for handling. Each hop is rational in isolation. Together, it's a quiet tax on your life. And no, this isn't just e-commerce. Walk into a store and grab a broom. The shelf tag already absorbed the container, the pallet, the cross-dock, and the inventory costs to sit and wait for you. Businesses literally manage logistics cost as a percent of sales. Many aim for 5 to 15% depending on category and service promise. When fuel climbs or capacity tightens, that ratio creeps up. They have two knobs, raise price or cut service. Free shipping lets them keep service optics while they twist the price knob by pennies across thousands of SKUs. There's a second reason you never see the receipt. Complexity is profitable. If the true delivery cost to your door flashed next to every item, you'd start asking hard questions. You de-batch orders, you de-pick slower options, you choose pickup, you push for split pricing, item here, freight there. Some retailers avoid that, not because they're evil masterminds, but because hiding the sausage keeps conversion high and support emails low. And once a market leader makes free the norm, the rest fall in line or eat abandonment. So zoom out. A system that costs trillions runs on thousands of micro decisions you never see. The magic trick is how it's partitioned. Ocean rates are negotiated by a few giant players. Parcels are priced by dense networks with steep discounts for volume. Warehouses bid labor like airlines bid seats. You face a smiling badge that says free. They face a spreadsheet that says pass it through, which raises the next question. Who exactly has the power to make your hoodie cost swing with a phone call? Let's meet the gatekeepers who decide how much space crosses the ocean and when. The gatekeepers, 3 mega alliances. So here, S where the ocean stops looking like open water and starts looking like a gated community. Most container space isn't run by lone wolf lines hustling for your hoodie. It's coordinated by three mega alliances, 2M, the Ocean Alliance, and the Alliance. You might have never heard those names, but your prices have. Together they control a huge share of global container capacity, which means they control how much space sails, when, and at what effective floor. You might be surprised to learn alliances aren't mergers. Each line keeps its brand and sales desks, but they share vessels and coordinate networks. Sounds harmless, like carpooling, right? Except when the carpool can cancel cars. That's the move called a blank sailing. If demand softens or rates dip, they can pull a ship, kill a loop, or slow down the turn. Less capacity on the water props up spot rates. It's called capacity discipline. To you, it looks like your retailer's freight quote just went sideways. Did you know regulators have wrestled with this for years? The U.S. Federal Maritime Commission lets alliances operate under filed agreements. The EU used to allow liner conferences, then scrapped that formal price-fixing exemption in 2008, but still tolerates consortia under conditions. China. In 2014, its Ministry of Commerce straight up blocked the P3 Alliance, a planned super-alliance by Maersk, MSC, and CMA-CGM, warning it would give them too much power on Asia, Europe lanes. So even people inside the system see the line between coordination and cartel as razor-thin. And then we got a stress test. The pandemic. Ports jammed, boxes in the wrong places, labor short, ships idled and then overwhelmed. Spot rates didn't just rise, they launched. Drury's indexes showed eye-watering jumps. The Boston Fed later crunched the numbers and found what shoppers felt. When shipping costs surge sharply, import prices follow. Because less capacity plus high demand equals leverage. Alliances didn't create COVID, but capacity calls inside alliances shaped how long prices stayed crazy, and how GRIs and surcharges kept landing even as lines cleared. Here's a concrete ripple you never see but always fun. An alliance announces network changes. That tweaks available slots on your supplier's lane. Freight forwarders scramble. Your brand either pays up for space, shifts to slower routings, or gambles on later sailings. If they miss windows, they air freight a portion to hit a launch date. That air bill nukes margin. So your free shipping hoodie nudges up $1. Nobody says thanks, 2M. They just bump the list price and keep the green badge. Let's be honest, the industry has reasons. Ships cost billions. Ports are choke points. If lines competed to the bottom every week, you'd see collapses and route deserts. Alliances promise stable loops, vessel sharing, better utilization. But stability has a price, fewer hands on the wheel. And when a few hands steer, they can steer your receipt. Surprisingly, this isn't theory in some law review. South Africa's Competition Commission recently referred a case accusing 8 major carriers, including Maersk, MSC, CMA-CGM, COSCO, Evergreen, MOL, K-Line, and PIL, of coordinating general rate increases on routes touching Durban over a decade. The tribunal will decide and the carriers can contest it, but the allegation is simple. Identical rate hikes on key lanes year after year. If true, that's not the tide rose. That's we decided it would. Now, does alliance power always mean higher rates? No. When demand falls off a cliff, even disciplined capacity can't defy gravity forever, but the floor sits higher than a free-for-all. And those add-ons, fuel surcharges, peak fees, congestion charges are sticky. Once a market accepts them, they like to stick around. Your cart never sees port storage surcharge, but your total still pays it. Here's the part that matters to your day-to-day. Big retailers negotiate annual contracts with volume discounts. They ride out spot spikes better than small brands. So the little shop that hand-wraps your order gets hammered first, marks up sooner, and sometimes dies quietly. The giants tighten supplier terms, extend payment, and still promise free today because their scale buys them a cushion. The alliances don't favor you. They favor whoever can promise containers week in, week out. And this is why the free myth is so durable. When a few actors can dial scarcity, it's easy to hide a rising tide inside the price tag and sell you a perk to distract you. You're not seeing a line item, you're seeing choreography. So if ocean capacity is the main stage, what tricks are running backstage to shave costs and dodge rules? Next, we're going to talk about flags you've never voted for, cheap registrations that cut taxes and oversight, and why those savings don't show up in your cart. They show up somewhere else. Flags of convenience. Cheap flags, costly consequences. So quick pivot from alliances to the flags those ships fly, because this is where cost-cutting turns invisible. Did you know most of the world's container ships don't fly the flag of where their owners live? They fly flags of convenience. That means the ship is legally registered in countries that make it cheap and easy to operate. Panama, Liberia, the Marshall Islands. Not because the captain loves the scenery, because the rules there are flexible. Here's the pitch: owners here. Register with us and you'll pay lower taxes, hire cheaper multinational crews, face fewer surprise inspections, and clear paperwork faster. Labor standards, looser. Wage rules, lighter. Environmental enforcement, depends. You get more business-friendly everything. For the carrier, that's money in the pocket every single voyage. For the rest of us, there's a catch. Start with safety. When oversight is thin, maintenance can slip. Surveys happen, yes, but the incentive is to stretch intervals and run hard. If a ship has a casualty, engine room fire, container stack collapse, the bill doesn't land on a checkout page. It lands on port responders, on insurers, on supply chains that seize up and jack prices. Flags of convenience push that risk out of the P&L and into the world. Then labor. Seafarers under these flags often work long contracts, months at sea, with wage pressure set by the lowest common denominator. Crews are skilled and proud, but bargaining power weakens when your employer can legally base you anywhere and swap flags with a form. When things go wrong, late pay, stranded vessels, it's a legal maze. You save a penny on your cart. Someone else pays with their time and health. Environment, same story. Heavy bunker fuel is still burned at sea, and while the industry is shifting, enforcement varies wildly by registry and region. Emissions rules in one zone, lax in another. Port communities breathe the difference. Oil spills are rare but brutal. Container losses, storms knock boxes overboard, create debris fields and product write-offs. None of that shows as a shipping fee. It shows as higher insurance, delayed goods, and cleanup we fund as taxpayers. You might say, okay, but if carriers save so much, don't prices fall? Surprisingly, not in a way you feel. Savings do trickle to you. They mostly pad margins or fund price wars that crush smaller rivals and then stabilize higher. Economists have a name for it. When a market has a few big players and high fixed costs, cost cuts can turn into rent, not discounts. And because free shipping masks freight as a bundle, there's no pressure to pass savings through line by line. Flags of convenience also make accountability fuzzy. Try tracking responsibility across an owner in one country, a management company in another, a charterer in a third, and a flag state thousands of miles away. When a port slaps a fine or a union calls a strike, the paper trail can be a hall of mirrors. Complexity protects profits. And again, you pay in the end through slower deliveries, higher shelf prices, or public funds spent untangling messes. Here's a concrete chain reaction. A carrier shaves crew costs by flying a lenient flag and running lean. Overtime stacks, morale dips, turnover rises. That increases training gaps, which increases incident risk, which triggers higher insurance premiums and more port state inspections. To offset, the carrier adds a handful of surcharges across lanes that customers barely notice. The alliances coordinate capacity so base rates hold. Retailers shrug and blend it into landed cost. Your free shipping blender goes up $2 next season. You never see the dominoes, only the tag. Now, I'm not saying every ship under Panama or Liberia cuts corners. Many operators run tight, safe, and clean. But the flag system creates an uneven playing field where the cheapest oversight wins business. That bends incentives away from long-term resilience and toward short-term savings, which is fine until the day a choke point clogs and the hidden risks get priced into everything you buy. And that's the pattern. Cost is shaved where you can't see it, risk is pushed where you won't notice, and the sticker claims free. Even ports get pulled into the game. They court volume with fee deals, then pass costs to local users when congestion hits. The savings don't land in your pocket, they land upstream. So cheap flags make ocean shipping look lean on paper. But the real bill, safety nets, environmental damage, labor strain, shows up later as higher prices and public costs. Which begs the next question. If even the paperwork is playing to win, what other shadows are built into the chain? Because some capacity isn't just cheap, it's not even real. Ghost ports and dark patterns in supply chains. So ghost capacity first. On paper, carriers and forwarders publish beautiful schedules, weekly sailings, 5-day transits, guaranteed cutoffs. In reality, some of those ships never leave, or they leave later, or they get rolled to the next week. That's a blank sailing with lipstick. The schedule lives, the slot you thought existed doesn't. Your brand finds out after the container gates in. Now it's rolled to next vessel. which is logistics speak for hurry up and wait. Here's a fun fact. Forwarders build paper routes too. They'll list a service that triangulates 3 ports with a dreamy transit time. It's a stitched itinerary, feasible, rare, and fragile. Any port delay breaks the chain and your box rides a capacity lottery. If the lane is tight, they'll bump low-yield cargo first. Your goods lose to someone paying a premium. The ghost route dissolves. Your ETA becomes a suggestion. Ghost ports aren't haunted, they're marketing. Ports and terminals promote available capacity, new cranes, faster turns, but if labor is short or yard density is high, the berth time stretches. The website still shows green lights, truckers at the gate see a parking lot. Those hours turn into demurrage and detention fees for sitting still. You never see the line item. Your retailer sees it and bakes it in. So free shipping just learned a new trick, charge you for waiting without telling you. Dark stores are the land version. Retailers spin up local fulfillment centers in old retail spaces. They look close, which makes a product page promise tomorrow delivery, but sometimes they're overflow staging, not true pick locations. Inventory shows available here, then hops to a farther DC when the local node is empty. The map says near you. The carton starts its trip 2 states away. Your order is locked because you bought the story. ETAs play games too. Ever notice the window that shrinks when you hover and then grows after you buy? Choice architecture. The promise locks the cart. After payment, the system reconciles to carrier reality. Weather, volume, security checks, whatever sticks. Legally, many terms say estimated. Psychologically, you already told yourself it's arriving Thursday. When it slides to Monday, you blame the driver, not the design. Cross-dock roulette is where the chaos hides. A shipment lands at a regional hub, supposed to hop same night to a feeder, but feeders prioritize density and yield. If your freight is light, low margin, wrong zone, it waits for the next truck with space. Now multiply that across thousands of hubs and daypots. One missed cut and a 2-day promise turns 4. The carrier invoices a base rate. The shipper eats service credits. The store quietly raises the list price next quarter to cover the pain. You just think, weird, jeans cost more. And then the surge fees, congestion, peak, excessive handling, limited access, liftgate, redelivery. They sound like edge cases, but during crunches they're default. Carriers learned in the pandemic that volatility prints money, so contracts keep market-based adjustments. The spreadsheet downstream learns to expect them. Nobody pulls them out when things calm down. You keep paying. You might be thinking, okay, but why fake proximity? Because speed sells. Sort by fastest and free buries competitors. A badge beats a spreadsheet every time. If a retailer can hold your click with a rosy promise, they will. If reality bites later, they lean on customer service scripts and goodwill. Meanwhile, the funnel captured another order, and the P&L spreads the make-good cost across everyone. Here's the part that stings. Uncertainty is monetized. Freight futures hedge risk. Carriers price volatility. Platforms run surge logic. A late box triggers reships and splits, which doubles last-mile touches. Those extra touches turn into higher all-in pricing that never leaves a note. You fund the hedge without seeing the bet. And no, this didn't start online. The playbook is older than your favorite app. Containerization made it possible to separate where goods are from where they seem to be. Standard boxes glide through nodes that speak the same mechanical language, which lets middlemen sell time they don't fully control. When it works, it's magic. When it slips, the cleanup bill rolls downhill into prices we stop noticing. So the takeaway, capacity you can't verify, promises you can't enforce, and fees you can't see all add up to maybe. And maybe costs real money. If free shipping were honest, it would say, we'll wrap uncertainty in a price you won't question. Next, we'll go back to where this shell game got its fuel. The humble steel box that crushed costs so far down that free sounded believable. The box that built the lie. Containerization history. Here's the origin story most people never hear. The reason free shipping could ever sound real is because a steel box made moving stuff so cheap and predictable that the price of distance collapsed. One trucker's idea set the stage. In the 195s, a North Carolina trucking owner named Malcolm McLean got sick of watching dock crews hand-carry cargo piece by piece. Breakbulk was slow, messy, and expensive. He asked a simple question: what if the whole truck trailer went on the ship? In 1956, he loaded 58 metal boxes onto a converted tanker called the Ideal X and sailed from Newark to Houston. Nothing exploded. Everything arrived. Time and theft both fell off a cliff. Standardization was the real magic. McLean and engineer Keith Tantlinger pushed for fixed dimensions and corner castings that cranes could grab. Later, the International Organization for Standardization locked the specs. Now a box that fit a truck, fit a ship, fit a train anywhere. No repacking, no guesswork, no sticky fingers. The cost to load dropped from dollars per ton to cents. Ports retooled with giant gantry cranes. Rail yards built intermodal spines. Highways learned the rhythm of containers, stacked like Lego. Did you know about 90% of the world's goods touch a ship at some point, and a huge share ride in containers? The box didn't just make shipping cheaper, it rewired trade. Manufacturers stopped caring as much about being close to buyers and started caring about being close to low-cost labor and inputs. Retailers changed too. Big box stores and catalog giants could plan global flows months out, then feed shelves just in time. As reliability rose, inventory buffers shrank. The box made scale safe. Here's the fun, slightly dark twist. When you crush costs and smooth time like that, you make room for new middlemen and new games. The container let carriers and ports think in thousands of identical slots. That's great for utilization. It's also great for financial engineering. Slots become assets you can price, ration, hedge, and bundle. We didn't just standardize metal, we standardized risk and rent. The size race started. Bigger ships, deeper drafts, wider cranes. Average container ships doubled in size over 2 decades. The biggest carry over 20,000 TEU. Per box costs fell again, but sensitivity to choke points rose. A stuck ship in the Suez Canal in 2021 showed the flip side. When a single hull blocks a lane, the entire calendar moves and your checkout price quietly shifts with it. Here's a fun fact. By the 197s, most consumer goods hitting the US arrived in containers. Theft plummeted because boxes stay sealed. Time in port dropped from weeks to hours. Labor battles flared, sure, but the economic math won. Cities rebuilt waterfronts around the new gear. Inland depots sprouted. The container didn't just change costs, it changed maps. And this is where the lie found its legs. Once the delivered cost of moving a toaster across an ocean got low enough, retailers could play with price psychology. You could hide freight inside the sticker and tell a clean story at checkout. Free shipping sounded plausible because the ocean leg was pennies per unit in stable times. The box made it believable, even when everything downstream, the last mile, the returns, still cost real money. Economists who dug into long arcs found something counterintuitive. In ad valorem terms, ocean transport's share of value didn't always crash as much as the myth suggests. Why? Distance, weight to value, service levels, but the container still smashed the fixed costs that blocked global sourcing. It took friction out of every handoff, and less friction is perfect cover for bundling charges where no one looks. Ports, rails, and highways learned to talk to each other because the box forced them to. That meant you could plan like a machine. Schedules got tight, spreadsheets got confident, then alliances arrived to coordinate ships at scale, and finance arrived to price the risk. The container built the highway. Others set up the toll booth. Let's be honest, it wasn't evil, it was efficiency. But efficiency with a thin margin of slack also creates power. Whoever controls slots, cranes, berths, and timetables can flex prices without ever touching your cart. You don't see it as a fee, you feel it as prices seem up. So when you see free shipping, remember, a steel box made distance cheap enough to hide the cost. That's the trick. The price never vanished, it just moved off the page. Shipping as an asset class. Rates, hedging, and rent extraction. So here's where the steel box meets Wall Street. Once containers turned freight into neat, countable slots, those slots started looking like financial products. Rates stopped being just how much to move this thing and became a price signal you could trade, hedge, and if you had leverage, help shape. Start with the core, freight rates. Liner contracts set base prices for a lane, but there's also a spot market that moves week to week. Indexes from firms like Drury track those moves. During calm times, it's boring. In shocks, the chart looks like a meme stock. And just like a commodity, businesses hedge. Freight futures let shippers lock in a price band for a route, the same way airlines hedge jet fuel. If you're a brand with a holiday launch, certainty beats gambling. You pay a premium now to avoid a disaster later. Charters are the slower, fatter cousin. Instead of buying space week by week, a carrier locks a vessel for months or years at a daily rate. When demand spikes, charter rates rip higher and owners of older ships enjoy a sudden cash gusher. Private equity noticed. Funds bought ships at the bottom, financed new builds, and leased them back to carriers. Now the ocean has landlords. Every tight cycle sends rent upstream to asset owners long before anything gets cheaper for you. Here's where the fee salad shows up. Surcharges and accessorials turn volatility into a revenue plan. bunker fuel surcharge when oil climbs, congestion surcharge when ports jam, peak season surcharge when it's Tuesday and demand is warm, then GRI general rate increase, announcements to reset floors. Regulators in places like South Africa even accused carriers of marching GRIs in lockstep on certain lanes. The case is still playing out, but you get the idea. Base rates wobble, the extra stick, and it doesn't stop at sea. 3PLs and parcel carriers copy the playbook. Dimensional weight charges, residential delivery fees, remote area surcharges, Saturday signature redelivery. Contracts now include market-based adjustments tied to external indexes. Translation: if the world twitches, your invoice grows its own line items. Each slice looks reasonable. Together, they become a toll road with 10 booths. Financial players sit at the terminals, too. Private equity owns stakes in ports, warehouses, even chassis pools. When demand spikes, throughput fees rise, dwell time charges kick in, and storage rates go dynamic. If a port yard becomes a parking lot, the meter runs. Importers scream, but someone collects. You never see those tickets. They roll into landed cost and then into the friendly, free shipping price you clap for. Let's be honest, hedging isn't evil. It keeps factories humming and shelves stocked. The problem is the incentive shift. Volatility turns into a profit engine. If your business can earn more when the system is messy, because fees, charters, and derivatives pay out, you're in less of a rush to kill the mess. You'll manage through and publish a decent quarter. Meanwhile, small shippers with no hedge get squeezed, pass it to price, or disappear. Here's a simple chain. A canal drought adds days to a route, spot rates lift, carriers post GRIs and a congestion surcharge. Charter costs rise, so capacity owners demand longer terms. Warehouses near the port fill up, overflow storage fees appear. Parcel networks flip on peak surcharges temporarily. Your retailer hedges a slice of Q4 on freight futures, smart move, but also bumps list prices 1% or 2% to build a cushion. The badge still says free. The market shrugs and accepts the new normal. You might ask, do prices fall when rates crash? Sometimes, but not symmetrically. Contracts lag on the way down, legacy surcharges cling. Retailers test what the shopper will bear and trim slowly to protect margin. If the market cleared at $27.99 last season, nobody is racing to $24.99 just because a spot index ticked lower for 6 weeks. The rent extracted during chaos doesn't refund neatly during calm. There's also data asymmetry. Big platforms see demand curves in real time. They nudge prices hour by hour and shape shipping promises to steer you to cheaper lanes. They arbitrage their own network, offering free next day where they're strong and quietly slowing where they're not. Smaller sellers don't have that view or the leverage to negotiate away fees, so they either eat cost or inflate list prices. Same badge, worse math. So shipping as an asset class means more than boats as investments. It's a whole stack: rates, charters, futures, terminals, built to monetize motion and especially friction. The container made units tradable, finance made uncertainty billable, and every time a surcharge sticks or a hedge pays, the easiest place to pass the buck is your cart. Which is why the free story is so useful. It keeps you smiling while the meter runs underneath. The free psychology, how you get nudged. So we've seen how the fees hide upstream. Now let's talk about the nudge that makes you say yes. Free isn't just a word, it's a switch. When the price to you drops to zero, your brain stops doing math and starts chasing upside. You focus on the gain, not the trade-off. That's the zero price effect. It's why a worse deal can feel better if shipping looks free. Choice architecture pushes that button on purpose. Sort results by free delivery and boom, half the field disappears. Add a bright badge, a green check, a little confetti when you cross a threshold, and you've got a funnel that moves people who would have waited or walked. Countdown timers stack the pressure. Order in 12 minutes for free next day. You weren't in a rush. Now you're sprinting to beat a clock that resets every hour anyway. Price partitioning is the quiet part. Instead of showing $21 plus $6.99 ship, they roll the $6.99 into the list price and leave you with a clean $27.99 and a free badge. The total is the same, but your perception is. You compare list prices across tabs and forget to add shipping on the ones that show it. That's not you being careless, it's the page removing friction. A tidy sticker beats a math problem every time. Loss aversion does the heavy lift at thresholds. Spend $35 to get free shipping. You're at $31.03 with socks and toothpaste. Do you leave $3.97 on the table or add a $9 keychain you didn't want to unlock free? Most people add. It feels like dodging a loss. Sites show mini progress bars, only $3.97 more, and throw in messages like "Don't miss out." You weren't missing anything. They framed a fee as a penalty and a trinket as a win. Anchoring makes it stick. Once a store trains you that free at $35 is normal, you organize your cart around that number. You'll wait to batch, or worse, you'll pad to hit it on a slow day. The anchor survives even if costs change under the hood. If diesel spikes, they just bump the threshold to $45. You'll grumble, then adapt. The anchor moves, your habit follows. Badges do reputation laundering. A small seller on a marketplace slaps free shipping and arrives Wednesday next to a cheap logo you've never seen. The platform's design makes them look as legit as the big guys. That softens your risk antenna. If Wednesday slips to Friday, you forgive the delay because, hey, it was free. The badge covered for a service level you wouldn't have chosen if the cost was labeled. Scarcity language pulls you over the line. Only 3 left. High demand, reserved for 10 minutes. It pairs nicely with delivery promises. Order now, still free by Friday. You're not buying a product anymore, you're buying a story about missing out. The cart becomes a countdown, not a choice. And because shipping looks free, the only cost you feel is time. You'll overpay to save a day you didn't need to save. Returns supercharge the loop. Free shipping implies free returns in your head. Even if it's not stated, you assume it. So you order 2 sizes, plan to send one back, and tell yourself you're trying at home. That habit raises reverse logistics costs, which push list prices up later. But because the pain is delayed and spread out, you don't connect the dots. The nudge lives rent-free. Stickiness is the endgame. Give someone free once and it becomes table stakes. Platforms know this. They bake shipping into membership so you prepay the privilege, then chase value to justify the fee. You start sorting by free everywhere because your baseline shifted. Even off-platform, you expect it. Retailers who show actual freight now feel like the bad guys, so they stop showing it. Transparency loses to vibes. Here's the uncomfortable bit. You can beat most of this by forcing yourself to compare net to door. Add the shipping back mentally when you see free. Ask, would I buy this at this all-in price if the badge vanished? Batch orders for things you really need, not to kiss a threshold. Pick slower options when time doesn't matter. Use pickup when it saves real money. And push for split pricing where you shop. The nudge only works if you let the page think for you. Regulators versus reality. Antitrust and loopholes. So here's where the story meets law and hits a wall. On paper, we've got watchdogs. In practice, the shipping world lives in a patchwork of carve-outs, old rules, and polite letters that show up after the price already moved. Start with antitrust. The U.S. Federal Maritime Commission lets alliances operate if they file agreements and avoid explicit price collusion. Europe scrapped the old liner conference exemption in 2008, but still allows consortia under a block exemption with conditions. China took a harder swing in 2014 and blocked the P3 superalliance, saying it would give too much power on Asia. Europe lanes. So yes, regulators see the risk, but capacity coordination still happens every day under legal umbrellas that look narrow on paper and wide on the water. When lines push it too far, cases pop. South Africa's Competition Commission just referred 8 big carriers to its tribunal, alleging a decade of coordinated general rate increases on lanes touching Durban. The companies can contest it, and the tribunal will weigh proof. If the case sticks, it's textbook cartel behavior. If it doesn't, it still shows the gray zone. Identical hikes, public notices, and everyone just happened to move together. Meanwhile, your prices adjusted years ago. Here's the truth. Even strong cases move slowly, and logistics moves weekly. By the time a ruling lands, new agreements are filed, different surcharges exist, and the calendar rolled on. Antitrust is rear view. Capacity calls are the steering wheel. Now the loopholes that don't look like loopholes. The Minimis. In the US for years, parcels under an $800 value could clear customs duty-free with light paperwork. Ecommerce loved it. Platforms split orders, overseas sellers shipped direct, and a river of small boxes bypassed duties and complex compliance. Consumers saw lower prices and free ship badges. Domestic retailers screamed because they were paying duties and dealing with full compliance while competing with 1,000 micro parcels ghosting under the bar. Governments noticed slowly. The EU ditched VAT-free treatment for low-value imports in 2021. Other places tightened, too. In the US, the fight dragged through committees and hearings. By mid-2002s, real momentum built to rein in de minimis abuse, especially for high-volume shippers routing through favored hubs. The push is simple. Stop letting bulk trade masquerade as a million gifts. As these reforms harden, the cheap from far away model loses one of its quiet steroids. Translation: fewer too good to be true prices, more honest tax in the tag. Does that make shipping cheaper? No, it makes the price more transparent. You'll see fewer mystery bargains and more all-in numbers. Retailers that built models on de minimis arbitrage will raise list prices or shift supply routes. The badge can still say free, but the math underneath has fewer places to hide. Labor and ports are the other reality check. Strikes, slowdowns, contract fights, costs ripple. The Bureau of Transportation Statistics tracks the pressure. You felt it as shelves thin out and backorders stretch. Carriers add congestion surcharges. Terminals raise storage fees. Everyone blames everyone else. Regulators wag fingers. The public pays. None of that breaks a law. It breaks your budget. And environmental rules, they're coming unevenly. Emissions caps in one region, market-based measures in another. Cleaner fuels cost more. Slow steaming saves carbon but costs time. Some carriers comply early, others wait. The fees appear as green surcharges, low sulfur adjustments, and new compliance costs baked into base rates. You won't get a vote on the method, you'll get a new price. So can antitrust or policy make your cart cheaper? Sometimes at the edges. Blocking a super alliance can keep a ceiling from hardening. A prosecution can scare away coordinated GRIs. Killing a de minimis loophole can level the field so domestic sellers aren't punished for obeying rules. But the structure, global services, cross-border law, thousands of nodes, means enforcement is always playing catch-up. Here, what regulators could do that actually hits your life. Force clearer pricing. Mandate disclosure of major accessorials, average delivery cost bands by zone, and standardized fee naming so you can compare apples to apples. Tighten alliance reporting so blank sailings and capacity pools face sunlight in real time. Harmonize de minimis with strong data sharing so bulk shippers can't slice under threshold. And fund port modernization so choke points don't become ATM machines every peak. Will that happen fast? Probably not. Policy moves in quarters, logistics moves in hours, which is why your best defense is refusing the blind bundle. If the rules won't make it clear yet, you can. Look for sellers who split item and freight, even if the freight is $0. Ask for shipping line items on invoices. Reward stores that publish delivery cost drivers and carbon impact. And when you see a price that seems magic, remember, someone's subsidy, loophole, or surcharge is hiding in there. You'll pay it either way. Better to see it. How prices really move. Landed cost to your cart. So let's track a product cleanly from factory floor to your front door and translate every hop into dollars you actually pay. Start with the landed cost stack. That's the all-in to get one sellable unit into a domestic warehouse. Product cost, international freight, duties and taxes, compliance testing, port and terminal fees, inland trucking, warehousing and fulfillment, packaging, insurance, and the sneaky stuff like congestion and fuel surcharges. Reverse that trip for returns. Average it across orders, and you've got the real baseline before a single ad or coupon. Now the markup math. Old school retail used Keystone double the cost. If landed is $15, list at $30. Simple, but big players don't run simple anymore. Dynamic repricing models watch inputs, ocean indexes, parcel zones, labor rates, even your zip, and nudge list prices by pennies. If diesel or a carrier's producer price index blips up, the system inches tags higher. If a port bottleneck adds demurrage, that flows into accessorial reserves, then into rounded 99s you won't question. Keystone became a living thing. Free shipping thresholds aren't kindness. They're engineered to lift average order value. If parcel cost per order is $6 and gross margin per cart is $10 at a $28 AOV, setting free at $35 pushes you to a $36 AOV where margin per cart jumps to $13 while the average ship cost per unit falls because items share one box. That gap is profit, not a gift. Miss the threshold. The site flashes only $3.12 to go because the model knows your add-on odds at that number. Returns are the boomerang tax. Reverse logistics isn't just postage. It's 2 more scans, an inspection, repack, or liquidation, and the hit when a seasonal item comes back too late to resell at full price. Apparel is brutal. Double-digit return rates are normal, so brands load an average return cost back into every outbound unit. If the average return costs $7 and 1 in 5 orders bounce, that's $1.40 baked into all orders before shipping out. You don't see return reserve. You see a higher list price and a free returns vibe that made you overorder. Let's break 3 categories so you can spot it. Apparel, light, bulky, fickle sizing. International freight per unit is low and stable, but dimensional weight punishes last mile. Landed on a $12 tee might be $6 product, $1.20 freight, 50 cents duty and compliance, 80 cents packaging and fulfillment, and 70 cents in anticipated return burden. $9.20 arrives at the DC. Keystone puts you near $18. Then the model adds $1.50 because peak surcharges returned and 30 cents to cover higher labor in the FC. You see $19.99 with free 2-day over $35. Buy 2, keep 1, the math still holds. Electronics, compact value, low returns, higher duties in some cases. A $120 landed headphones unit could be $85 product, $3.50 ocean air blended, $7 duty, $1.50 insurance and compliance, $2.50 fulfillment, 50 cents packaging. Returns average low, say 80 cents per unit. Margins are tighter, so freight spikes pass through faster. That's why you see $10 jumps when canal issues or air bumps hit. Free shipping is standard, but faster options are paid upsells to offset carrier surcharges. Essentials, heavy, low-value density, paper towels, detergent, freight dominates. A $9 landed jug might be $3.50 product, $2.20 domestic transport across legs, 40 cents packaging, $1.60 fulfillment and handling because it's awkward, and a big parcel zone hit if shipped alone. Stores push pickup or bundle because the per order ship cost eats margin. Free over $35 basically forces you to pack the carton to lower cost per pound. The Minimis used to hide some import friction for small parcels. As that window narrows, expect low-value goods that rode that loophole to firm up prices. Not gouging, just fewer ways to duck tax and paperwork. Platforms that scaled on microparcels will raise list or push consolidation. What really moves the price day to day is variance. If ocean spot rates lift 10% for your lane, that doesn't mean your hoodie jumps 10%. But studies show import prices do respond more when surges are severe and contracts echo spikes for months. Sellers smooth the shock by lifting $1 here, $1 there, across thousands of SKUs. You don't see a surcharge, you feel drift. The only fair way for you to compare is net to door. Put $21 plus $6.99 ship next to $27.99 free and ask which total is lower and which service level you actually need. If you can batch to 1 box, that's real savings. If you can pick up locally, you dodge the costly last mile and sometimes get a lower shelf price because the store didn't pay a parcel carrier. Slow options often cost the seller less. Take them when time isn't critical. And yes, some retailers will show split pricing. Item here, freight there, carbon there. Reward that. It builds pressure for clearer markets. If you never see the line, you can't push back on it. If you see it, delivery to zip 94,110, 540, you might choose slower or batch. That's actual control, not a green badge telling you a story. Bottom line, landed cost is math, not magic. The magic is how it's hidden. When you learn the stack, the badge stops working, and suddenly you're the one moving the numbers. Consumer leverage, beating the free game. All right, let's flip the script. You can't control canal droughts or alliance meetings, but you can control how you buy. The goal isn't to quit the internet. It's to stop tipping billionaires every time a green badge blinks. Start with one rule, compare net to door. Always put $21 plus $6.99 ship next to $27.99 free and ask which total is lower for the speed you actually need. If totals are close, pick the one that's honest about freight. Reward transparency so more sellers offer it. Batch on purpose, not to kiss a threshold. Build a simple rhythm, 1 order per week per store or every other week for non-essentials. That cuts touches, reduces per unit parcel cost, and starves the only $3.12 to go trap. If you're on a marketplace, use lists instead of carts. Park once there, then move a batch when you truly need several items. You'll be shocked how many urgent buys die quietly. Time shift your buys. Freight and parcel networks breathe. Post-peak windows, mid-January through spring, late summer before holiday ramp, tend to be calmer. Promotions that scream free rush shipping in October are the most expensive to fulfill, so you pay in list price. Stock up earlier on staples, delay non-urgent upgrades until the network isn't on fire, and you'll dodge hidden peak surcharges baked into free. Use local pickup and consolidation. Stores and lockers exist because the last mile is pricey. If you choose pickup, you remove a carrier hop. Many grocers and big box chains price match with in-store promos that don't include a delivery premium. Bonus, you can inspect perishables and skip damages that trigger costly reships. If a retailer offers ship-to-store, free and honest delivery is $4. Take ship-to-store and combine with errands you already run. Your net cost drops. Your time cost stays flat. Kill the threshold game. The progress bar is not your boss. If you're $4 short of free, don't throw in a trinket you don't want. Either accept the shipping fee if the net-to-door still wins, or wait until your next planned order. Better yet, use a waitlist workflow. Make a private note with target items across shops. Once any list passes a useful basket size, trigger the order. You starve impulse add-ons and still get scale. Push retailers for shipping clarity. Ask support for a breakdown item, shipping, and any surcharges before you buy. Tell them you'll purchase if they can show the split. Enough messages like that and product managers notice. Vote with your wallet. Choose stores that display delivery cost by zip and speed, show carbon or fuel surcharges as separate lines, and publish return fees clearly. Hidden fees thrive in silence. Sunlight changes roadmaps. Returns need rules. Free returns feel good, but they raise prices. Tighten your own fit and try routine. Check sizing charts, read reviews, and measure before you order 2 sizes. If a brand offers a fit tool or augmented try-on, use it. If you do return, consolidate drop-offs. Don't create multiple labels across days. Some retailers now offer a small discount for no-return purchases on low-cost items. Take that option when you're confident. It removes reverse logistics from the price other shoppers will pay. Avoid paid speed unless there's real value on the other end. Free next day isn't free to the system. If delivery timing doesn't change your life, birthday gift, travel item, perishables, pick standard. Many retailers prioritize slow lanes during crunches, so your standard can arrive nearly as fast without triggering air upgrades that boomerang into future pricing. Mind memberships. If you already pay for a program with included shipping, don't let the sunk cost push you into extra orders to get value. Flip it, set a monthly cap on deliveries and aim under it. Use the membership when it actually lowers net-to-door over alternatives. Otherwise, shop out and calendar the renewal. If the math doesn't pencil out, cancel the auto-renew and renegotiate the next promo cycle. Leverage community. Share carts with family or neighbors for bulky essentials, detergent, paper goods, pet food. One big order to one address cuts per unit last mile cost. Some carriers and local shops offer group drop discounts. Ask. If not, you still win by splitting fuel and time on pickup. Finally, keep receipts and track patterns. If a store's free orders often arrive late or damaged, you're paying in stress and reships. Switch. If a transparent seller consistently beats net-to-door and hits promised dates, stick with them. The only way the market shifts is if we reward clear math and starve the batch theater. One cart at a time is how this changes. Human cost, labor, safety, and externalities. So far, we've followed the money. Now follow the people who move it. Start at sea. Seafarers keep those containers alive, months on contract, far from shore. Internet spotty, writes fuzzy. Under flags of convenience, crews can be hired cheap from anywhere, rotated fast, and paid late with little recourse. When ports locked during the pandemic, some were stuck on board past contract for extra months. Imagine your workplace also being your home, your prison, and your paycheck floating. You don't see that on a free shipping badge. Safety isn't just drills and life vests. It's manning levels, maintenance windows, and whether overtime becomes the default. Run lean crews on tight schedules and mistakes multiply. Lashing a container stack in rough weather takes time and bodies. Skimp on both and boxes go overboard, cargo is lost, and ships get damaged. Insurers pay, carriers add surcharges, ports slow to inspect, prices creep. The chain reaches your cart through a quiet dollar here, another there. Then the docks. Longshore and terminal workers live with cranes, straddle carriers, and containers swinging stories above their heads. Quotas rise when vessels get bigger and windows tighter. Miss a target, eat a shift. Automation cuts some risk but adds new ones. Oversight gaps, maintenance pressure, fewer eyes to catch a bad rig. Injuries don't show up as shipping. They show up as hospital bills, union fights, and throughput delays that trigger, yes, more fees and higher landed costs. Truckers feel it next. Port drivers often operate as independent contractors. which can mean they pay for their rigs, fuel, and maintenance, then wait in unpaid lines at terminals. A day spent idling isn't billable time, but the rent is still due. Detention and demurrage policies can turn scheduling chaos into trucker penalties. Guess who ultimately pays for a system that makes drivers eat delay? You do, as that cost rolls into freight quotes and then into retail price. Warehouses carry the last heavy lift before your doorstep. Pick rates, heat, cold, repetitive strain, and robotics that speed the line without softening the toll on bodies. Injuries spike around peak season because volume surges and training gets thin. Turnover rises, productivity falls. Operators bring in temps, which raises error rates, reships, and returns. Reverse logistics gets busier. That boomerang tax you fund? It's also someone's wrist, back, or knee. Let's be honest, no one wakes up saying, let's hurt people. It's incentives. If the market worships speed and free, the middle squeezes labor to make the numbers work. Short-term wins become long-term churn. Workers burn out, communities absorb the strain, prices settle higher than they would in a system that valued slack and safety the same way it values a next-day promise. Now breathe in the externalities. Ships burn bunker fuel, cheap, dirty, improving but not clean yet. Emissions rules are tightening, sure, yet coastal and port communities still carry the load. Higher asthma rates, noise, diesel particulates from trucks queuing on local roads. When ports clog, ships idle offshore burning fuel for days, and terminals run generators and yard equipment longer. Every extra hour is carbon and cost. You don't see harbor smog fee. You see milk up a dime and a toy up a buck. Accidents scale with size. A single hull jammed in a canal knots global schedules and turns minor shipping fees into a global inflation story. Storm losses scatter plastic and product into oceans and beaches. Cleanup gets funded by a mix of insurers, public money, and corporate write-offs. Translation, taxpayers, premiums, and prices. Again, not a line at checkout, just life getting more expensive. What about the "we save with flags, you benefit" claim? In practice, savings upstream rarely lower your bill downstream. They often widen margins or subsidize price wars until rivals fold. Then service stabilizes at a higher floor with fewer employers for the same workforce and less room for labor to push back. If a carrier or a platform banked the gain, labor didn't. You didn't. The cost shifted off P and LS and onto people and places. Here's the through line you can't unsee. Every free you love hides a bill someone else pays first. Time, health, air, before it hits your wallet as a quieter, later price. There's a better version of this. Clearer line items, fairer contracts, safer pacing, cleaner fuels, and shoppers who choose honest totals over shiny badges. We can get there, but only if we stop pretending the delivery ferry works for tips. What's next? Choke points, AI logistics, and price shocks. Where is this headed? Start with the map. Global trade still squeezes through a handful of narrow straws. The Panama Canal, the Suez Canal, the Strait of Malacca, the Bosporus, key rail corridors, and a few megaports that handle a giant share of volume. When any of those hiccup, drought, blockage, cyber-attack, labor action, you don't just get delays. You get price signals that ripple everywhere. Carriers reroute around Africa, burn more fuel, miss port windows, and trigger congestion fees downstream. Even if your goods don't touch that choke point, your rates feel its shadow because capacity is one big pool. Canals are getting touchier. Drought limits Panama's transits. Security reroutes traffic away from Suez. Each detour lengthens voyages, ties up vessels, and tightens available slots. That's oxygen for GRIs and surcharges. Remember, when capacity gets scarce, the financial stack wakes up. Charters rise, futures tick, and fees resurface. You won't see Suez detour on your receipt. You'll see a dollar creep across 10,000 items. Now layer on AI. It's not sci-fi forklifts with feelings. It's math quietly steering trucks, cranes, and prices. Demand forecast models learn your paydays and weather. They front-load inventory to the right region, which reduces stockouts. Good. But those same models also tweak list prices and shipping promises in real time to capture margin. Sneaky. Network optimization tools reshuffle loads across routes every hour, choosing who gets fast lanes and who waits. The system can decide your town is a slow promise zone for the next 2 weeks to protect costs. And you'll just see, arrives Monday. Warehouse AI watches picker footsteps, heat maps aisles, and schedules labor to the minute. That can cut waste. It can also push quotas right to the edge, raising injury risk when volume spikes. On the ocean side, predictive maintenance keeps vessels running longer between yard time. Great, until everyone stretches at once and a surprise failure knocks out a loop during peak. AI reduces average friction, but can also create synchronized errors that amplify shocks. Pricing is where it gets spicy. Dynamic delivery fees already exist, many are buried. AI will push all-in prices that look consistent while hiding micro moves tied to your zip, time of day, and competition in your radius. Two neighbors see the same free shipping, but one pays $1 more on the sticker because their area has higher failed delivery rates. It's not illegal, it's optimization. And because shipping is bundled, there's no obvious line to challenge. Nearshoring sounds like the fix. Move factories closer, shorten miles, dodge canals. It helps sometimes. Mexico, Eastern Europe, and Southeast Asia will see more nodes, but closer doesn't mean cheap. Borders still have paperwork. Regional rail and port capacity must grow. Labor, energy, and compliance costs differ. You trade ocean volatility for land bottlenecks and wage inflation. The math gets less wild, but not free. Expect fewer miracle bargains and more steady, all-in pricing that reflects reality. Friendshoring, picking politically aligned countries, adds resilience and risk. It can lower sanction exposure but concentrate flows into a smaller set of hubs. If everyone piles into the same safe corridor, that corridor becomes a new choke point. One strike, one storm, and there goes your calm. Policy will keep nudging. Antitrust chatter gets louder when rates spike, then cools when charts drift down. The Minimis reforms close the easiest loopholes for microparcels posing as gifts. Emissions rules ratchet up, raising fuel and compliance costs unevenly. Larger players will comply early and market it. Smaller ones will struggle or consolidate. Net effect, fewer sellers absorbing costs in silence, more honest totals. And yes, some price rises that feel like a tax, but are really just the bill coming out of hiding. So what should you expect as a shopper? Fewer blanket freebies, more included delivery on memberships, and standard is free, faster is paid, becoming normal. Delivery windows will stretch slightly to protect networks, and split-ship penalties will sneak in behind the scenes to discourage one-order many boxes. Returns will tighten, shorter windows, restocking on certain categories, because reverse costs finally hit the P&L too hard to ignore. You'll also see more pickup perks and small discounts for flexible delivery, like any time this week. That's the system begging you to share the load. Here's the good news. When prices get more all-in, your choices actually matter more. If the fee is visible, you can trade speed for savings, batch to cut touches, and reward sellers who show their math. If the badge pretends everything is free, you're stuck playing against a house you can't see. The future is higher transparency or higher theater. If we push for the first one, the shocks still come, but they don't blindside your wallet every time a canal dries up or an algorithm sneezes. The truth about free. So here's the clean answer. Free shipping is a story. You fund the plot. The steel box made distance cheap. Alliances and finance learned to price the gaps. Platforms turned free into a button that shuts off your internal calculator. And every surcharge, loophole, and labor shortcut we walk through, those costs never disappear. They just move off the invoice, into the list price, into taxes, into someone else's lungs or overtime, then back to you as prices just went up. Who profits when shipping looks free? Start with carriers when capacity tightens, GRIs stick, surcharges multiply, charters pay. Add the asset owners, funds that lease ships and terminals, landlords of the choke points. Then platforms that steer you with badges, sell speed where they're strong, and harvest the margin from optimized promises. Some retailers benefit too, especially the ones with scale, great AOV, and dynamic pricing that tracks rates up faster than it tracks them down. In short, players with leverage turn volatility into rent. Shoppers and small sellers carry the variance. What changes if you act? More than you think. When enough people compare net to door and reward transparent fees, pricing teams notice. When you choose standard delivery unless timing is real value, last mile panic calms and air upgrades shrink. When you batch orders and skip fake thresholds, AOV traps lose power. When you use pickup or group buys for heavy goods, you remove the most expensive touches from the chain. Those choices don't just save a few bucks for you. They change the demand signal the system reads. Push for clarity and you get better markets. Ask stores to split item, freight, and carbon, even if freight says $0. Ask for delivery cost by zip and speed at the product page, not at the last click. Prefer sellers who show return fees up front and offer small no-return discounts when it makes sense. Tiny moves, big ripple. You starve the bundle theater and feed the honest math. Here's the reframe that sticks. You're not cheap for caring about shipping. You've been charged blind. The badge turned a real cost into background noise. Seeing it isn't being picky. It's refusing to fund a system that treats confusion as a revenue line. The second you make shipping a thing you look at, the upsell loses its invisibility cloak. And no, this isn't about going backward. It's about paying on purpose. You still get convenienced. You still get global choice. You just stop tipping billionaires every time a green checkmark pops up. You decide when speed is worth money. You decide when to batch, when to pick up, when to wait, and when to walk away from a fake deal that only looks cheap because the bill is split 12 ways and mailed later. So let's land this. Free shipping is a mask. The $14 trillion logistics machine sits behind it, humming, taking its cut at every handoff. Carriers set floors, alliances shape supply, flags and fees shift costs, platforms smooth it with confetti and timers. You can't fix canals or rewrite antitrust tonight, but you can kill the spell in your own cart. That's how pressure builds. That's how we get pricing that shows its fate. One cart at a time sounds small. It is. It's the only lever you touch daily. Choose visible totals. Choose slower when speed doesn't matter. Batch smart. Reward the sellers who show their math. Ask every time, who's paying for this free? If the page won't answer, don't click. By the time you see the real receipt, free stops feeling like a perk and starts looking like a tax with better branding. The lie only works when you don't look. If you want more straight shots like this, tested, traced, and told without fluff, hit subscribe. Share this with one friend who can't resist the only $3.97 to go bar. And next time a badge screams free, pause and ask the only question that matters. Who's paying and where did they hide the line?